Record. All right. Okay, let's start by talking about production, because you are all ready for production. Actually, I see someone has been working on production. So quick bit of recap is that you can access the staging backend by going to this URL, which I will paste. And you enter the prompt YRL, and you can log into here, which I will get to in a moment, but I'm going to talk about production. So production is the same path, but you change staging to production. And YRL at the prompt, and you can log into production here. So YRL training is, no, YRL admin was my account. So everybody logins should be the same from what you were given for staging. And you should be able to see everything you can. If you've changed your password on staging, then it'll be back to YRL training on production, because production and staging are completely separate. And periodically, we will copy the production data down over to staging. So anything you do on staging, just treat as just a test. That is completely not the case for production. Production will be your live site. And if you take the URLs that I gave you all for the staging site, you just have to change the that part that was .staging to .production, and you will get your production site. In fact, I think one of you, was it Stony Plain, has been working on it. So let's take a look. Look at that. Their logo is up. So when we go live at a time of that we'll coordinate, a date and time that we can coordinate with you, this that you see on the production domain will be what you see on your website. So in this case, it would be my sppl.ca. This is all the content that you enter on production. This is what's going to be on my sppl.ca. So that is production. So feel free to go in on production and edit your site. And you don't have to worry too much because your site is not currently live. But of course, if you want to really just test anything that's throwaway, you can go on staging. And I'm going to continue the training today on staging, but if not today, after this lesson, you should have most of the tools you'll need to start working on your website. Okay, so let's just get back over to staging. So I'm going to log into staging, and you should all too if you haven't already. And I see in the chat, Lena's reminded everybody your login is your email, and if you haven't changed your password is YRL training. So my login is not this email, but your login will be an email address. And I'm going to go to the training site, and just for the front end, I'm going to go to YRL training. Okay, really quick recap of where we left off. Last time, I believe we spoke about the contact page. And the contact page has a form. This form is the same for everybody's website, and you can't change these fields. If you don't want this form, you should be able to. You can toggle that form by clicking this checkbox, if you're a library that has multiple branches and you don't actually want this page because it doesn't make sense for multiple branches, then you can hide this page. And reminder of how you hide, you go to the locations tab and you can hide this page, and if I refresh, that link will also be gone. So I can reveal it, it'll come back for training. All right, so that's one type of form that we have. Another type of form that we have is a custom form. Now, a custom form is, per its name, completely customizable. So let me show you an existing one, and then we can test creating one. So suggest a title is a good example. Using that URL trick, if I copy this path from YRL training over to the website, I can load this custom form in the front end. And we can see that it is, at least in styling, similar to the contact us form. But it's a little different because you can modify it. So we've got a title, we've got a description, and we've got all these fields that you can modify. So if I go to the back end and I edit this form, now that I'm on this page, I can click edit, or just a reminder of a couple of other things you can do to get around. If I was in the parent item and I see this form in the sub items window, I can click this icon, just left click, and I can edit it. The same thing. All right. So we've got the title and we've got the description. That should be pretty straightforward. You can format the description as rich text, and then we get to the form bit. Now, just before I get to the form bit, I will show you the other things you can do here. So you can set a recipient. Let's pretend that it was, we'll call it YRL. You have a thank you text, so that when someone submits the form, you can customize that message. As well, there is a confirmation email that's sent to patrons. You can customize the text that goes in that email with an intro and a footer if you want. You don't have to enter things into any of these fields. Even if you didn't enter this, it'll be some generic thank you text. But here are the fields. So this is a unique type of field. It's not just as straightforward as these text fields. You have all of the fields of your form, and then you can add new fields. You just click the plus button. And if you wanted to reorder them, you just have to drag and drop. In this case, I'm just going to show you how to delete a field. So you just, when you expand it, you just click on the title to expand, and you can remove the field. Same thing, I'm just going to remove the fields I added. Now let's take a look at some of these. So the basic one is text, and you've got the name of the field, the type of the field. You can add a description, whether it's required. And so let's just quickly take a look here. So it's just the name, it's a text field, and it's required because it's got the star. And validators. So there's only a few validators here. You might not use them. This field has none right now, but you can set that it needs to be a URL, it has to have a minimum length, maximum length, or library card. Library card validation is just that it has 14 characters. Let's say for name, I wanted to make sure a minimum length, just to show you what it looks like. Then I just say it has to have 2 characters. And I can remove this if I want, and now there's no validators on this field. You can look at a couple more. The email type is very similar to the text field, except it's going to make sure that it's a valid email address. And here's when you can decide whether to send a copy of the form to the patron. So if you don't mark this, then no email is sent to them. There's only one email that's sent to the recipient on this form. If you check this, then it also sent a copy to the person who filled in the form. And that's actually where the email text comes in if you've checked that box, and that's unique to the email field. Just a couple more here. Text area. Text area is just a multi-line text field. So if you scroll down here, text area. While I'm here, let's look at material type. It is a multiple choice. You have a couple of options here because you can choose whether to make that radio buttons or checkboxes. So radio buttons, you can only select one. Checkboxes, you can select multiple. This select and select multiple, it'll just show it in a different interface. I can actually just change that to show you. You'll be familiar with that field once you see it. And then you've got the options. There's quite a few other types of fields. So I'm just going to show you that before I save and show you the front end of that change to the multiple choice. We've got date and time. This just means that they'll get a date picker or a date and time picker. You can allow them to upload files. Typically, this was used for like 3D printing. Then we allow you to select what types of files they can upload. Integer and number, just integer is a whole number. Number can have decimals. Password, you just won't show the text on the front end. And I think that's it. And then it's just time, which is just a subset of date and time, where you only pick a specific time without specifying the day. So I'm just going to remove this field because I'm not going to use it. And I'm going to save this so I can show you what select multiple looks like. I refresh this, and there we go. So then you can select many in a different interface if you didn't want checkboxes for some reason. Okay, lastly about the forms is that it will not only send a copy to the recipient. Probably there's no email address here, but on staging, we don't actually send emails out. So I'll just submit this form so you can see what happens. Title. What am I in the mood for today? Ratings. I'm sorry, I don't remember the author. Oh, I can skip the author. All right. Book. And please let me know about my suggestion. All right, so that's what happens on the front end. It just says, thanks, this is what you sent. And if we look at the back end here, it will show you all the submissions in the back end. So you can do that here, or you can export that to a CSV. Any questions about the custom forms? I see some, yes, you can add multiple validators. Security issues. We do not scan the files. So it's not, the way that it's set up, it's, we don't have to worry about files being uploaded. It's not going to break the website. But when you then download the files, you have to make sure that you've got a virus scanner.
Darius replied to that, and he is correct that you should be able to run a quick scan using Sophos on any files that you download. And that's a great idea to do with any files that come from patrons, because there could be viruses in Word files or PDFs or Excel spreadsheets. So great question, Steph, and great answer, Darius. And I'm so glad to hear that you do that with your 3D printing documents already.
Awesome. I'm going to move along, but feel free to ask any more questions in the chat. let's talk about book lists next. So a quick review on book lists on the front end. You can feature them on your homepage, and we'll get to the home. I probably won't have time until the last training session to talk about the homepage, but you can feature them on the homepage. They also then end up having their own page in the CMS. And I will just get into this. The other thing you can do, you can embed them into the body of like a general page. Those are the three main ways in which they're displayed on the homepage, if embedded in the body, or also a full view of the page. And it is just pulling in from a catalog. So all of this information is pulling in from there, and you can click to end up there. And let's see the back end. So using this trick, I copy this into the back end. A quick note about the fact that it's in a book lists folder. You don't have to use this setup. You don't have to put all your book lists in a folder. This is just for easier organization. And I don't actually officially cover folder in my training notes, but here's the moment. Folders in the CMS are simply used for organizational purposes. And in fact, if you try and access a folder on the front end, because it's an item in the tree, there's no page there. It'll just redirect you to the home page. So it's purely used for organizational purposes. You can use them or not use them. There's no actual page to display about a folder. And if you see in any of these example pieces of content where we've got custom forms and book lists in a folder, you don't have to do that. You can put book lists and custom forms anywhere within the content tree that you'd like. But let's get back to book lists. So I'm going to edit one first and show you what it's like. So in this case, we have in the book list content type in the CMS, you add the books one by one. So the concept is that you are creating the list in the CMS rather than creating it in the catalog and then importing that list. However, it should be pretty straightforward in terms of how to add books to the list, which I will get to in just a moment. To show you the other fields, we've got a title for the list, got a short description. Short description displays just here. There is this feature called read alike, which I will show you in a moment. If you select that, then there's a special header for that. And that's about it. Then you have the book list. So you can remove items from the book list, or you can add them. If you add them, you can paste in the ISBN, the control number, or the UPC. So I'll just show a couple there. And it'll automatically pull the book in. And I think I picked one that was a control number after this one. The idea is that you can scan books in. If you've got a stack of books and you've got like a USB scanner, then you should be able to just keep scanning the books, and it'll just paste and hit enter for you. So it should be a pretty quick workflow if you've got that set up. Otherwise, you can just paste in the numbers directly into the CMS. And there's no ordering here because it will automatically order and then allow you to sort by title or author. And by default, it'll order by title. And I'll show you this read alike feature, and you use that by selecting one particular book to feature. Let's just pick this one, and I'll show you what happens on the front end. It'll end up in a slightly different layout. The idea for this layout, this whole read alike, is that you're featuring one book that people might be more familiar with for whatever reason, and you can say that here's a list of books that are similar to it. That's why it gets this special treatment. And I will show you quick, actually, this is a good time for everybody to test doing this. So for following along, go to the training site or even your site on staging, anywhere in the content tree, and you can click create new sub item, and you can select a book list. And there's one difference is when you first create a book list, if YRL wants to set some starting book lists, there'll be a drop-down list here, and then you can select one of those book lists, and it'll start your list off with that imported list of books, but then you can modify it to make it whatever you want. It's just a handy starter if you'd like, but encourage you to just test creating a book list, and during that time we'll see what questions there are as well. If you scan a book and it's a different ISBN than what's in the catalog, will it have a broken link to the catalog? If it doesn't match anything to the catalog, then it's not going to bring anything in. So the logic of the scanning is 100% tied to the catalog. There's no other way for us to get the information on the books into the system. We don't have like a manual entry into the CMS. So if for some reason the number does not match what's in the catalog, then if it was for some reason it's assigned to something else, going to pull in that something else or just say can't find anything. I haven't done that recently, so I forget what that behavior is, but it might just show an error. So let's just try this, which won't exist. Yeah, could not find book. While everyone's doing that, for a minute, I'm just going to create a test book list in the Yellowhead reusable content area, then I can show you how that works. Training book list. Okay, for any Yellowhead admins, I don't want to confuse anybody else, but I'll just do this really quickly. I think we saw this in our original training, but if you create a book list in this separate area, which I've done, then when you first go to create a book list, you'll have this list available, and then you can import those books. Okay, I think I see a few test book lists here. Just a refresher, if you want to see more information in the sub items window, you click this table options button, and then you can show some other information. And I can sort here. I can see some test book lists people have created. Oh, where to add a book list? You should do that in the content tree, anywhere in the content tree under your library, because then it'll appear as a page that is on your website. Because everything you create on the content in the content structure area, actually other than folders, but it'll appear as a page on the site. All right. Any other questions before I move on? All right, let's talk about events. So every library has an events calendar. And this events calendar, you've got this calendar view, which you can toggle by a month, week, day view. There's also a list view, which is completely different. It's no calendar. And this will default on mobile phone. So for smaller screen sizes, we don't even try and show the calendar view. We show a list view. I'll toggle back to the calendar view. So this page is the events landing page. And you don't really have anything to do about this events landing page. It's just a title. Underneath the events landing page, you then can create events. This structure is set up for all the libraries in the system, where once they become past events, there's actually a script that's going to move them in a folder called past events. So let's see, this was some training events. And then it'll store them in folders. So if you ever see that happening, these are for past events. It automatically stores them away, so there's not too much happening under the events tree, directly under the events tree. If you want to do your own folder organization, you can. Otherwise, just like book lists, you can create them without the folders. Although in this case, you should put them underneath the events landing page so that they will appear on the events calendar. Let's just look quickly at an actual event. So Booksters Book Club. This is a recurring event with a registration form. You don't have to have either. You could just have a one-off event. This one's a little special. And it shows you the schedule, and you also have a registration form. So let's look at the back end for this event. Got a title, an image. I'm going to skip the date information because that's the most complex part. Then other than location, a bunch of optional fields, location, cost, a short description, and a description similar to what we saw on the news page. The short description has no formatting. It is used only when it's displayed in other areas. So on the news landing page or on the home page, and it's similar here for events. In the list view for events, or when featured on the home page or in search results, that's where the short description comes into play. But then on the actual event page, it shows the description itself. And you've got event categories. So you can only select one main category. Under this main category, you then have subcategories where you can select multiple subcategories. If we go look at the front end here, that's where this main category came into play. And if you look at the events calendar, actually, I'm gonna have to have another event, but when you actually start populating your your events tree with events, then you'll be able to filter by main category and subcategory. And actually, let me just show you one. Here, you can filter by main category. Once you select one, then you can filter by subcategory as well if you'd like. But back to our event in question, the Booksters Book Club. The most interesting bit is this date information field. So here you can select, let's just add a date rule. So you can make it just one start and end time, or you can make it more complex. You can have a recurring event. And so in this case, this occurs every month on the third Wednesday, and you can specify a time, a specific day when it ends, or it never ends. You can look at a couple of the options here for the recurrence. It can occur every week or every month. Week is a bit simpler. For the month, then you can select, well, it happens on a specific day or the first, second, third, fourth, last day of the month. And maybe it happens every Tuesday, but also every Thursday, let's say. So you can put it all in the same event if you have multiple day rules. So let's just pretend actually the first one was every Tuesday. Now let's do every Thursday. And I'll just pick a Thursday for the first time. So that's, I can have one event that has multiple rules for the occurrences. That is almost it for the event itself. However, maybe looking at that and thinking, well, what if I have an exception? That's where you have the sub items for an event. So once you created the event with its schedule, and we discarded that, so let's just remind ourselves of how that works. For this one, it's every month on the third Wednesday. But it's not happening this Wednesday. Let's see. I can create a sub item called event exception. I'll put a title, skipped for, actually it was the third Wednesday, wasn't it? So that would be, it would be this Wednesday, skipped for March 15, 2023. If I don't enter anything here, it'll just pull the information for the event, although that actually doesn't even matter for the skip, because here's the important bit here. When you create an event exception, you can select the date that you want to change. So it's not going to happen this. It's not going to happen this week. I think I've got my dates wrong, but anyway, I'm going to skip this one. So if I choose skip, then it's just not going to appear on the calendar, and this title is just for internal tracking purposes. But let's say I wanted to change this. So in this case, I can change this event and choose a different time. So instead of 7 p.m., I want to change that to 6 p.m. So I can do that here. And that's where the change, the fields matter when you change the event, because then you can override what's going to display here. It's like a special occurrence, let's say special March Thursday for, it's St. Patrick's Day almost, isn't it? Let's say it was St. Patrick's. Well, I think it's on the 17th. Let's just actually see what happens there. Okay. My dates are all wrong on this calendar. I don't know why. So what should have happened is you end up on a special. When you click the event on the calendar, it'll go instead to your exception day, and so it'll actually tell you about this exception. Something's a little funky about how this event was set up. I don't know why I've got my Wednesday and Thursday mixed up, but it was changing it from this week, and I changed the time so it shows that, and it'll have a special page for this exception, so you can put some additional content if you needed to explain what was happening. that is event exceptions, where you can skip or change events. And the way you do that is you create event exceptions underneath the event itself. Perhaps more common is the use of registration forms. So if I show what content type these are, this is a registration form. So if you don't do anything to an event, there's no registration form. You create a registration form underneath the event. And so let's look at that. In this case, actually, it's easier to call it registration form. You can select the fields that are used. So this is the third type of form on the site. We have a contact form, we have a custom form, and now we have a registration form. The registration form, for simplicity, is not as customizable because we've determined that there's a set of fields that every registration form can choose from. And so instead of adding and customizing all the details about these fields, you just drag and drop them. And if you don't want them, you just drag them back over. If you ever had a field that didn't fit one of these, although maybe it might fit under this generic notes and comments, then that's something to coordinate with HQ, and it's relatively easy for us to add that. But for training, let's say that the fields are a given. Your options are, these are fixed options. And you can change the order of these fields if you like, just by dragging and dropping. So those are the fields on the registration form, but then you have a few other important pieces of information. So you can specify a registration limit. You need to specify a limit here. Let's set something more reasonable. Let's say 10. You can have a wait list. You don't have to specify that there's a wait list, but if you enter in a number here, it'll have a wait list. Then the system will automatically send a confirmation email to patrons, but you can specify who on the library side should get an email whenever someone registers. And in this case, you can specify multiple recipients. So let's say you wanted to send it to, I just see an email address in the chat, so I'm going to take that. You wouldn't use this, but just so I have example, let's also send it to Lena. So whenever someone registers, the system will send an email to both of these addresses. You can also customize the thank you text. You don't have to, it'll just show some generic thank you message when you submit the form. And these two fields are pretty key as well. It doesn't matter, this type of form field, if you have a single occurrence. However, once you have a recurring event, that's where this type of form comes in. So you've got a few options here. So let's say that this Booksters Book Club was a series of 10 sessions, and you registered once. Because it's the same, you should be coming to every session, and it's going to be the same people registered. So that's this default setting, same registration for all. But if you had a different type of event, let's say it was some toddler, mommy and me yoga. So that was just happening, let's say it's same thing every week for 10 weeks, but you registered for each individual occurrences. You're just going to say, I'm going to come to this week's class. So then you would change that to per occurrence. And so there would be a different registration for each of those 10 occurrences. And the last bit is per date rule. This is probably going to be used the least often. If you remember back to the event content type, I was able to select multiple date rules. And the example was, let's say it happens every Tuesday, every Thursday. So in this case, if you want to have a different registration for the Tuesdays versus for the Wednesdays, that's where per date rule comes in, which is a little different than for the whole series and for every single occurrence of those Tuesdays and Thursdays. This is splitting one set of registrations for Tuesdays and one set of registrations for Thursday. The last one is send email reminders. So the system will send emails to all of the registrants 24 hours beforehand, and you can check this box if you want that to be the case. All right. I think I'm going to just jump over to the demo site so I can show you what happens with wait lists for the interest of time. So let me just find that one. All right, I've got it. Okay. So just to explain a little bit around the wait list. So here's an event that has 5 spots, 0 wait list claimed, but it has 5 waiting list spots. And I'm just going to show you the back end so we can see how that works. All right, for the registration form in this example, we've got 5 people registered, and it'll show you in the back end, similar to the custom form. You can see all this information back here, and you can also export it to a CSV if you'd like. And no one is on the wait list. So the first person is going to register onto the wait list. It was King Friday. I don't remember if this was right, but let's say next character is King Friday. Okay, so what happens in this case is that King Friday is going to get the first spot on the wait list. So you are now on the wait list. And if you look at this event now, it's got 1 waiting list spot claimed. And if I refresh the back end, King Friday is now on the wait list. So what I haven't shown here is the email confirmation that you get. So when King Friday registers, King Friday is going to get an email that says you are now registered onto the wait list. Similar to someone who got registered on the main list, it'll also have a cancellation link, so you can remove yourself from the wait list. They might also want to call in, so you can come to the back end and remove them. But if they click the link in their email, they can remove themselves. If they call in, you can just press this button, which I'm going to show you actually. So let's say that Miss Elena canceled. She called in. Let's see what happens. You can click this button to remove her. And King Friday will get automatically moved onto the main list. And we'll see what happened here. Miss Lena is moved onto the cancel list, and King Friday got moved onto the main list. And King Friday is going to automatically get an email that says, good news, the spot is opened up. You have now been moved onto the registration list for this event. So that is how the wait list feature is going to work on registration forms. Any questions about the whole events calendar? Yeah, a registrant can cancel their spot either by clicking the link that'll come into their email when they get the confirmation email, or it was showing in the back end, if they call in, then you as a staff member can log into the back of the site and remove them from here. But they can also do it themselves. They just click the link that is in their confirmation email. When you save a draft, most often the best place to find that is in the dashboard, and you'll see an area called My Drafts, and it should list your drafts. That's for a new piece of content. If you left a draft open, I don't remember if it actually appears here, but if you left a draft open, then I'm just going to recreate that. Then when you go to edit that piece of content, it'll say, hey, you left a draft open, you can continue editing that version, or you can create a new draft. A question about multiple registrants. Okay, so currently, if you were to register multiple children, what you have to do is you fill in the form multiple times, and it'll say when you enter the same email address, hey, someone's already registered with this email. Are you sure? And so they will just end up getting multiple emails for the multiple registrations, so they can cancel them individually. There's actually a feature that we added for another library that we might add in the future, where on this form you actually can have multiple registrants, and so you can actually, there'll be a plus button and you can fill it all in one form. That is just something to help patrons on the front end. The way that works on the back end is the same as if you'd filled in the form multiple times. It'll just have each individual row per registration, and they'll get individual emails for each of the registrations so that they can cancel them individually. So if they had 3 registrations, they want to cancel one of them, they'll just click one of the links in the email. Okay, we have a few minutes, so I am going to I'm going to do part of the homepage. It's always good if you get some hands-on experience, but we don't have so much time. I can't go through everything on the homepage, but we'll get it started. So then if you just, that's probably most of what you need to really get into your site. And then we can complete the rest of the training on Friday. But I'll give you a quick peek of the homepage. The homepage has a lot on it. And this is the only case where we have not just the fields in the main part, but these different sections of fields. And I'll explain what these sections are for. So first we have content. Content is the most straightforward because it's mostly just a bunch of fields. And I'm not going to go through each of them individually, but you've got some information about your library, such as the address. I'm going to skip opening hours. I'll come right back to that. But phone number, email address, social icons. You don't have to fill them in. If they are filled in, they'll appear in the header and footer of your site. A bunch of information that is mostly shown in the member library list page. And I will show you that. So there's a lot of information that's just shown here about a particular library that you'll fill on your homepage. And some things like there's a newsletter sign up in the footer, so you can fill in the information about that. But I'll come back to opening hours. So opening hours, you can have a schedule of opening hours where each day you can toggle as open or close. And then you can put a description. Now this is just text. You can put anything you want here, including for closed. And if we go to the training site, we can see that appearing, it's closed today. So let's actually change that. Today is Monday. Let's say it's open on Mondays between 10 and 5. And let's see that. Open today between 10 and 5. And let me just go back here. So that's the main schedule. Then you can also have some exceptions. There's something called summertime. It's really any block of time. But you can only define one block of time where between this date and this date is going to show a completely different schedule. I think I just made this up. I don't know why it's going to be closed for spring cleaning, but for 2 months, every day it'll show as closed between this date and this date. Then you have special rules and special days. Special rules is for specific exceptions that happen yearly or monthly. So it's always closed on, let's go with New Year's Day, for example, and closed on New Year's Day. So then this will happen yearly. You don't have to enter this every year. But then there are exceptions that'll happen on different days. Easter's upcoming. I actually forget. No, it's this. Let's say it was the 7th. So you can define that closed for the Easter holiday, and then you would next year you would change. You specify a different day for the Easter Friday. So that's the difference between special rules and special days. But this is the content section where it's just a lot of general information about your library, including the opening hours. Design, this is where you can not just set the logo and the fave icon for your library. There's also a map image that shows here. But the colors. So we have some preset color schemes that you can use in this drop-down list. You can also set the colors yourself. And so you would change these six colors. And then once you set these colors, it should work automatically. However, you will be able to, for each of the design elements, then toggle between the colors you selected. And it'll tell you what you've done. What you can't do here is you can't just say, hey, I want H1 to be pink if you didn't select a pink as these colors. The only freeform colors you can select are these 6 base colors, and then within the elements, then you can toggle which of the colors they're going to use if you need to change them, but they should generally work. Last two is system. System is a little more straightforward. You just enter the URL of your website and then a bunch of, let's say, tags if you use them, Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, live chat for library help. Do we have one here? Yeah, it's this little widget down in the bottom right. Track library code. I think we're setting these when we create them. It just means that when you do a catalog search, it'll end up in the context of your library. And the last thing I'll say, because I think we have a couple questions, is layout. And this is where we'll start off on Friday. This is actually what goes on your homepage. So everything I talked about are kind of things that are for your site in general. What goes on your homepage is layout, and it's defined by these blocks that you can change the order of. And within these blocks, I won't get into it, but then you can actually customize what goes in these blocks. The only thing I'll say is if we just follow down the homepage, you'll see the banner, carousel, news, events, book list, fun fact, featured cards, land acknowledgement, I don't remember what I just said, but it should match what I just I'm showing now on the homepage, all these blocks that are here. And you can reorder them if you'd like. Okay, that's the homepage, and we will get into the details of the layout blocks on Friday. And let's look at whether there's any unanswered questions. Yeah, removing the donation at the bottom of the homepage. There's a field where you can not set something there. I don't quite get the question about quickly see program registrations. Maybe since someone can help me clarify that. Quickly see program registrations, you have to drill down to each individual program. Oh, I think I get it. That is something we don't currently have, although it is a future feature that we've discussed with Lena and Andrew. I think it's that if you wanted to see a registration, you have to go to the actual event, and then you can see the registrations in that event. There is no current central area in the site where you can see all of the registrations at a glance, but that's a future feature we've been talking about. Can you print, oh, my video is being off. Can you print the registration list? If you export to CSV, you can then print that. There's no special print view in the back end. I mean, you can print the back end, but it'll have all the stuff around the back end. Your best option for printing it is to export it to a CSV. Okay, I'll stop the recording.